At 5 p.m. on a Friday, my manager slammed a binder on my desk and said, "Finish this before you go. You're fast, right?" I stayed. Finished it. Highlighted every mistake he had missed. On Monday, the client called to praise the changes and asked, "Can we work directly with the one who fixed this?" And that's when, "My name's Mitch, and this happened about 6 years ago when I was working at a mid-size marketing agency just outside of Cleveland, Ohio. I was 33 at the time, married, 1 kid, just trying to keep my head down and build a better life. I'd been with the agency for about 3 years, slowly moving up from account coordinator to associate manager. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud, but I did my work, and I did it well. The problem was my boss, Ethan. He was one of those guys who went to a third-tier school, landed the job through his uncle, and thought managing people meant reminding everyone he was the boss every 30 seconds. He dressed the part, too. Tight blazers, expensive watches, and a smile that looked like he practiced it in the mirror. Ethan didn't work hard, he worked loud. Took credit for everything. Blamed anyone but himself when things went south. And for whatever reason, he had it out for me. Maybe because I was quiet. Maybe because I never laughed at his jokes in meetings. Or maybe because I made him look bad without even trying. I don't know. All I know is he constantly dumped grunt work on me. The kind of stuff way below my pay grade. But every time a big client praised something I touched, he found a way to spin it like he had led the charge. I was tired, burned out, but I had a mortgage, daycare bills, and a wife who was already stressed from her own job. So I kept my mouth shut and kept grinding. Then came that Friday. We were all getting ready to leave. It was 5 o'clock sharp. People had already grabbed their bags and were halfway out the door. I had dinner plans with my wife and daughter. My daughter, Macy, was 6 at the time, and she had begged me all week to come home early, so we could go out for ice cream after dinner. I had my laptop halfway closed when Ethan stormed over, binder in hand. It was thick, real thick, like 150 pages. He slammed it down on my desk. Everyone turned and looked. "You're fast, right?" he said, loud enough for the whole floor to hear. "Client wants this reworked. Needs to be done before Monday." I was going to do it, but you've got better eyes. "Shouldn't take you long." I just stared at him. "It's Friday," I said. "And I had plans with my family." He smiled, but it wasn't a real smile. "We all make sacrifices, Mitch. You want to be more than just a coordinator again someday? Show me you're a team player." And with that, he walked off. I sat there for about 5 minutes. My hands were shaking. My wife texted, asking if I was on the way. I texted back, "Not tonight. I'm sorry." She didn't respond. I stayed. Worked through the night. Didn't leave until almost midnight. I ordered takeout, drank 2 vending machine coffees, and combed through that binder line by line. The project was a marketing strategy plan for a new client. A big one. Ethan had supposedly written the draft. It was full of holes. Repetitive. Confusing. A mess. I rewrote huge chunks of it. Fixed stats. Updated research. Even redlined his entire appendix because it was copy-pasted from an old campaign we did 2 years ago. When I was done, I printed it clean. Put it in a new binder. And for good measure, I slid a sticky note on the cover that said, "All errors corrected. Recommend we submit this version." I went home. Didn't sleep. Monday morning, the client called. They didn't even call Ethan. They called the director of accounts, Sandra. Asked her who had fixed the plan. Said it was one of the best submissions they'd seen from us. Said they'd be moving forward with the new version. Then they asked something I'll never forget. "Can we work directly with the one who fixed this?" Sandra called me into her office. Shut the door. Sat back and said, "Mitch, talk to me. What happened on Friday?" I told her. Everything. Calm. Simple. No drama. Just facts. She listened. Didn't say much. Just nodded. Then she said, "Okay. Go back to your desk." That afternoon, Ethan called a team meeting. He didn't know what had happened yet. He walked in all cocky, ready to brag about the client win. Then Sandra walked in behind him. What happened next was like watching a slow-motion car crash. Sandra pulled out the binder. The one I had fixed. "This version," she said, "is what the client praised. This version was not written by Ethan." Everyone turned. "I spoke with the client," she continued. "They were very clear. They want to work with Mitch going forward. Ethan, you'll be removed from the account." You could hear a pin drop. Ethan went pale. "With all due respect, I led the..." Sandra cut him off. "I reviewed the document, Ethan. The original draft you submitted was archived Friday at 4:52 p.m. Mitch's version was uploaded at 11:43 p.m. and the metadata confirms every edit was made by him, including the analytics fix you didn't even notice was wrong. He didn't say another word. He was off the account the next day. I was promoted a week later, not to his job, but to a newly created senior strategy lead role reporting directly to Sandra. But the real revenge? That came later, because Ethan didn't just lose the account. He started slipping. Small mistakes. Missed deadlines. Nobody wanted to work with him anymore. And Sandra? She started asking me to review his work before it went out. Quietly. Privately. But it was clear, the power had shifted. His pride was breaking piece by piece. And I wasn't done watching. After the fallout from the binder incident, everything at the office shifted. People who used to crowd around Ethan's desk started giving him space. Too much space. He'd walk into morning meetings and barely get a nod. Before, everyone faked smiles when he cracked his tired jokes. Now, they just stared or checked their phones. And me? I kept quiet. Didn't gloat. Didn't rub it in. But I knew. Everyone did. I'd gone from the guy who sat in the corner during team meetings to the one who got CC'd on every client-facing email. I had a new title, better pay, and, finally, respect. But Ethan didn't take the loss lightly. He started acting strange. First, it was small stuff. Passive-aggressive comments in the hallway. Saying things like, "Must be nice having time to perfect documents when you're not juggling 5 accounts," loud enough for others to hear. Then he started pushing work toward me again. Not the way he used to, with that fake charm. This time it was sneaky. Subtle sabotage. He'd forget to share key documents. He'd schedule overlapping meetings, so I'd miss calls. One time, he sent a client an outdated file and claimed I gave it to him. I caught it and forwarded proof to Sandra, but I didn't escalate it further. I thought he was just bitter. Thought he'd cool down eventually. I was wrong. About 2 months after the binder incident, Sandra called me into her office again. She looked tired. Her desk was covered in folders, but she had one open in front of her. "This isn't easy, Mitch," she said. "But I need to ask, have you been accessing internal files from Ethan's private folder?" I blinked. "No, of course not." She slid the folder toward me. Inside were printed screenshots of access logs. Someone had been logging into Ethan's project folder using admin credentials. Pulling data. Modifying timelines. "I didn't do this," I said. "I swear to you." Sandra believed me. I could see it in her face. But she was under pressure. There was an internal audit coming up. She needed to be clean. The IT department flagged the logins under my name. "Check the IP," I told her. "It wasn't me. Someone's spoofing my account." She nodded slowly. "We're already doing that. Just sit tight." 2 days later, I was cleared. The logins had come from Ethan's laptop. He had cloned my login credentials using an old shared drive password from a year ago. Something we all used during onboarding when accounts were created. IT found the breach. Sandra confronted him. He didn't even deny it. He said I had hijacked his career and he was just trying to level the field. They fired him on the spot. But it didn't end there. Because that client, the big one that started all this, reached out a week later. Said they'd been approached by someone offering to sell them a more aggressive marketing roadmap than what we'd given. A roadmap that mirrored our internal strategy, down to the timeline projections. Guess whose name they gave? Ethan's. He'd taken our internal plans, mine mostly, and tried to sell them freelance. He told them our agency was slow, bloated, and afraid to take risks. Sandra was furious. Our legal team sent him a cease and desist. But the damage was done. Word got around the industry. Marketing is a small world, and Cleveland's not that big of a town when it comes to agency work. Ethan was toxic now, and still he couldn't stop. He started messaging people at the agency. Old coworkers, interns, even the receptionist. "Just checking in. Wondering if you've heard anything. Mitch is making power moves, huh?" He messaged me too. One night around 11 p.m., I got an email from an unrecognizable address. The subject said, "You think you won?" The body just said, "You'll never be more than a footnote. You don't lead, Mitch. You fix things. You're the janitor, not the architect." I didn't reply. I forwarded it to HR just in case. But something about those words stuck with me. You fix things. You're the janitor. It hit me. That's exactly what I had been for him. Quietly cleaning up his messes for years, letting him take credit while I did the hard part. Maybe he was right about one thing. I was never loud, never flashy, but I wasn't a janitor anymore. 2 months later, I got pulled into a private lunch with Sandra and the regional VP. They'd been watching how I handled everything. The binder, the sabotage, the fallout. They offered me Ethan's old role. Full manager. Same office. Same team. Except this time it was mine. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. I just nodded and said, "Thank you. I won't waste it." But the best part? It wasn't the money. Or the title. It was the fact that on my first day in that office, I walked in, sat at the desk, opened the drawer. And there it was. That same old leather-bound planner Ethan always used. He must have forgotten to take it. Inside were notes. Sketches. Even a to-do list labeled, "Who to impress this quarter." I flipped to the back page. It said, "Mitch equals threat. Watch him." I laughed. Out loud. No one heard me. No one needed to. I had watched him just fine. But this story isn't over yet. Because Ethan wasn't done trying to crawl back into the game. And the deeper I dug, the more I realized he'd been hiding things. Things even Sandra didn't know. And I was going to bring it all into the light. 3 weeks into my new role, things finally started to settle. I was managing a team of 7, including 2 junior associates who used to report to Ethan. They were nervous around me at first, probably expecting me to carry that same smug energy he had. But I wasn't built like that. I kept it simple, do the work, do it right, and treat people with respect. Then came the anonymous envelope. It was hand-delivered. No return address. No postage. Just a plain manila envelope with my name written in black marker. I thought it was some internal paperwork at first. I opened it right there at my desk. Inside were 2 things. A printed copy of an email thread between Ethan and a man named Trent Mayer, dated 5 months before he got fired. A flash drive. The email was short but chilling. It read, "Trent, attached are the raw numbers from the Bicknell campaign. Make the edits look clean. Make it sing. We need to show big growth or this client will walk. You know what to do. You always do." My hands went cold. The Bicknell campaign had been one of our agency's biggest wins last year. Ethan had led it, at least on paper. The results had been praised, published, even featured in a digital marketing journal. But this email suggested something else entirely. Fake numbers. Falsified results. And that flash drive? It held proof. I ran a virus scan on it first, call it paranoia. But when it came back clean, I opened the files. Inside was a side-by-side comparison of the real campaign data versus what was presented to the client. Click-through rates had been doubled. Conversion numbers completely made up. There were spreadsheets with tracked edits. Metadata showed Trent's name on every single one. And hidden in one of the folders was a Word doc titled, "For Eyes Only," with this note at the top, "Trent, delete after reading." If anyone asks, you were just cleaning up the formatting. Do not mention edits to metrics. If this ever leaks, we're both screwed. I just sat there, stunned. He hadn't just sabotaged me. He'd been lying to clients, risking the agency's entire reputation. And if Bicknell found out, they'd sue. Hard. We'd lose one of our biggest contracts. And now I had proof. But there was a problem. I didn't know who sent the envelope. And if I brought it forward, Sandra might assume I'd been sitting on it for a while. That I'd known. That maybe I'd even been involved. So I had to move carefully. First, I went to IT and asked if anyone named Trent Mayer had ever been on payroll. He hadn't. But one of the senior devs remembered that name. Said Trent used to do freelance analytics support. Off the books, cash payments, Ethan's idea to cut red tape. Then I looked up Trent on LinkedIn. Found him. Still in Cleveland. Still working as a digital metrics consultant. I messaged him from a personal account and asked to meet. We met at a local coffee shop 2 days later. I told him who I was and what I had found. His face went pale. He didn't even try to deny it. He told me it was harmless, Trent said. Said it was about adjusting numbers to match the campaign goal. Said everyone does it. I just stared at him. But you knew it was fake. He looked away. Yeah, I did. Then he surprised me. I'm the one who sent you the envelope, he said. I couldn't live with it anymore. I figured if you had it, you'd know what to do. I didn't say much after that. Just nodded. Took the flash drive and left. I went straight to Sandra's office. Showed her everything. Told her about the envelope. The emails. Trent. She didn't yell. She didn't panic. She just sat very still. Then she said, "If this comes out, it could ruin us." I said, "If it doesn't come out and someone else leaks it, we're finished anyway." She agreed. The agency brought in legal counsel. A full internal audit began. And a week later, Bicknell was notified. They were angry, but somehow they respected how we handled it. Because we owned up to it. We told them it was one bad actor, no longer with us. We offered a discounted renewal package and full transparency moving forward. They stayed. But now things were serious. The agency's owners got involved. Ethan was slapped with a lawsuit for breach of contract, fraud, and misuse of client data. They also contacted the local marketing ethics board, and a formal complaint was filed under his name. But what happened next? That was the real twist. A few weeks later, a new agency opened up in Akron, just under an hour from us. They were small, flashy, calling themselves agile and disruptive. Guess who was listed as the founder? Ethan. But he didn't use his full name. He rebranded himself, went by Lance, trying to shake off the past. Trent later told me that Ethan had tried to recruit him again, offering him a partner role. He said no, of course. But I knew Ethan wouldn't stop. So I made one final move. I gathered everything. The emails, the altered documents, the flash drive, even screenshots of Ethan's fake agency website where he claimed Bicknell was a former satisfied client. And I sent it. Not to our lawyers. Not to Sandra. I sent it to Bicknell's legal department directly. From an anonymous email. Because he'd already made us pay once. He wasn't going to do it again. 2 days later, word got back to me that Bicknell was suing Ethan personally. The fake agency? Shut down within a month. Ethan vanished off LinkedIn. His number stopped working. His professional email accounts were deleted. He was gone. But his story wasn't over. Because when people fall that hard, they leave wreckage. And I had just found out he left something else behind. Something that could drag more names down with him. It was over. Or at least it should have been. Ethan's fake agency got shut down. He disappeared from the industry, wiped his online presence, and everyone at our agency breathed a little easier. The lawsuit from Bicknell was still ongoing, but that was out of my hands now. Sandra called me a few weeks after and said, "You did the right thing. We wouldn't be standing without you." I should have felt proud, but I didn't. Because 2 weeks after Ethan vanished, I got a knock on my front door at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. It was a woman, mid-30s, blonde hair pulled into a tight ponytail. She looked tired, but not the kind of tired you can fix with a good night's sleep. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. She was holding a folder in one hand and a little boy's backpack in the other. "Are you Mitch?" I nodded. "I'm Dana, Ethan's wife." I didn't say anything. I just stepped aside and let her in. She sat at my kitchen table while my wife quietly took Macy upstairs. The silence in the room was heavy. "I found your address in Ethan's old tax papers," she said. "He kept mentioning you. Said you were the one who destroyed his life. Said you were a snake." I sat down across from her. "He tried to ruin my career. He hurt a lot of people." She nodded slowly. "I know. I found everything. Emails. Files. Your name was in half of them." She pushed the folder toward me. Inside were screenshots. More emails. Even chat logs, messages between Ethan and some guy named Corey. Someone I'd never heard of. They were planning more than just number faking. They were building fake pitch decks, recycling old campaign slides, even creating false testimonials. Ethan had planned to start his agency on lies from the beginning. But the worst part, there was a note in one of the files labeled leverage. It listed names. Mine, Sandra's, Trent's, even Bicknell's VP. With notes underneath each, like, Mitch equals family man, play the guilt card, Sandra equals affair rumor, might crack if pushed, Trent equals weak, use his conscience against him. I felt sick. I looked up at Dana. "Did you know?" She shook her head, tearing up. "No, but now I know everything." And I left him. Took our son and moved out last week. We're staying with my sister in Akron. She stood up and walked toward the door. "I just thought you should know what kind of monster he really is. And if you ever hear from him again, don't trust him. Don't forgive him." She left. Quietly. No drama. I stood in my kitchen for a long time after that. Later that week, I forwarded that folder to our legal team and the ethics board. It sealed the case against Ethan. They revoked every certification he ever had. No agency would touch him. He was professionally blacklisted. But even that wasn't the end. 2 months later, Sandra called me into her office. "I just got off the phone with a friend at a recruiting firm," she said. "Guess who's applying for entry-level roles in Indianapolis under a fake name?" I laughed. A dry, tired laugh. "Let him rot," I said. But Sandra wasn't done. She leaned in and said, "You want to know the real kicker?" I nodded. His wife's filing for full custody. She's using everything, emails, documents, even his fake agency scam. Their son, Miles, he's 7. Ethan tried to call him last week. The kid hung up. That sat in the air for a moment. He's losing everything, I said quietly. Sandra nodded. That's karma. And it was. It came slow, but it came. Ethan lost his job, his reputation, his family, his kids' respect, and every ounce of control he thought he had. All because he couldn't stand someone doing the job better than him. He underestimated me. Thought I'd just keep cleaning up his messes. But I learned something through all this. Revenge doesn't always need fire and fury. Sometimes it's just a binder. A quiet night at the office. A choice to stay when you're being tested. And sometimes revenge comes with a clean desk, a new title, and a little yellow sticky note that says, "All errors corrected."